We've all had the thought, if only I could go back to 1993 and buy some alpha booster packs, I'd be a millionaire today. It seems so simple. Step 1, buy booster packs. Step 2, sit on them. Step 3, sell them and swim in cash. Bam, you can buy a booster pack for $2 or $3 and sit on them, and 30 years later that thing's worth like $40,000. I mean, that type of return would turn $1,000 into $16 million. This dream is one reason why so many people lose their minds and get so excited when a new trading card game hits the market, and Sorcery Contested Realms is no exception. So will buying Sorcery boxes make you a millionaire or leave you broke and penniless? Before you depart with your hard-earned dollars to Sorcery Contested Realms or any other Kickstarter, there are some really important factors that you need to consider. Before we dive into those, let's do a quick review of what Sorcery is. Sorcery is a new trading card game. It's an old-school fantasy card game for players with a rich imagination, tactical nerve, and an appreciation for hand-printed art. They had a Kickstarter goal for $300K. They absolutely flew past that. It's in the rearview mirror. Once they crossed $1 million, then a big video came out of Rudy from Alpha Investments saying he was supporting the game, and that exposure was huge. And over the next 5 days, they gathered another $1.4 million, bringing their total fund to just shy of $2.4 million so far, and it still has over a week left. Now that we're familiar with the game, let's dive into the important factors to consider before we depart with our money to a Kickstarter. Let's go with the pros first. Number 1, the most obvious, the art. The art in this game is stunning. These are handcrafted, hand-painted pieces of art, and they are beautiful and so phenomenal. A subside of this, kind of number 1.5, is Frank Frazetta. Frank Frazetta is an absolute master, legendary artist, just the godfather of fantasy art. He has had multiple original pieces of art sell for the millions of dollars. Do you have any idea how incredibly rare that is? To sell a piece of art for over $1 million, and he's done it multiple times. The fact that they commissioned some of his art is just unreal. It shows the real dedication to the beauty of this game. Reason number 2, $2.5 million is a lot of revenue, and that's essentially what this is. This Kickstarter is a big, long pre-sale. This isn't just saying, hey, give us some money and we'll say thank you. They're giving product. They're selling their product. Do you know how hard it is for a company to raise $1 million of revenue in their first year? It's really, really rare, and they blew past that, and over at 2.4, by the time this thing ends, they could easily hit $3 million. That is a lot of runway for a startup that provides a lot of resources to be able to give people an actual paycheck and not just give people equity to work for your company. I mean, $2.5 million really gets them off the ground. It gets them started well. Reason number 3, the Alpha Investments supply chain. Sorry, I know the light's in the way, it's kind of hard to read, but this supply chain is absolutely huge. Now, the promo video that Alpha Investments did, that's a huge bump. I mean, since then the Kickstarter went to over another $1.5 million. That's huge. That's nothing to scoff at. But in the end, a promo video, and that's just simply a fish, right? It's a really, really big fish, but it's still just a fish. But the big thing is the partnership with Alpha Investments. This is a big pro for this company because of the supply chain they get access to. In the future, when they do second print runs and when they release new sets, they're going to have the Alpha Investments supply chain to distribute across the entire country and world. A lot of the US, but he does have international supporters as well. And having access to those 3,000 patrons, that's huge. I mean, that is a big, big supply chain that they have access to. Can't emphasize enough how important that is for a small indie card game to be able to actually get into the hands of the players. Reason number 4, this is the alpha print run, and this is it. This is an exclusive opportunity. They're not going to take this a Kickstarter and use this as a metric as to how much to print. They're going to print enough to give to the supporters of the Kickstarter, and that's it, with a little extra for, errors and stuff and damaged product. But they're not saying, okay, look at this many people are interested, we're gonna print enough for all of these people and double it. No, anything more that they print will be a second print run, and all the exclusive promo items as well that are gonna be coming with these, this is your only opportunity to get it straight from the company. Now, it's probably going to be the cheapest price there is. Unless the company doesn't do well at all, then eventually there's going to be a lot of these available and they'll flush out the market and people will fear. And there's a good chance that's possible. Even if the game succeeds and the company succeeds in the long run, there could be some short terms where maybe prices dip below, and instead of spending $130 plus shipping, maybe you get these things for $100. I don't know, but the one thing's for sure, this is the print run. And that is really important, not to mention all the exclusive promo items that are coming with it. Let's jump over to the cons, and the first one, this is a startup. And the reality is, startups have a 90% fail rate. There's a good chance that 5 years from now, this game and this company won't exist. Now, I wish them the best. I'm not trying to put out that negative energy, but you got to look at statistics and just recognize the reality. Just running the business is really, really hard. And despite your best efforts and despite all the good intentions in the world, companies fail every day. Con number 2, this is a really crowded market. I mean, the TCG space is nothing that you can just walk into and say, hey, there's lots of people ready to jump in. I mean, there's some established players. Obviously, you have Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, and you also have some new startups that have been successful that have only been in the market for a couple of years. Obviously, you have Flesh and Blood and MetaZoo, and MetaZoo even got into Walmart, taking retail space there and shelf space there. One thing important to note that while this is a crowded space, they have carved out a unique niche, which is really, really important. You don't want to enter a crowded market and be just a copycat and doing the exact same thing. And they said, hey, we're going to target an older audience, people who have memories from the 90s and the 80s, and they want this nostalgia of older fantasy. And a big benefit for going for an older market of people in their late 20s, 30s, and 40s is that generally, on average, they're going to have higher incomes and thus more discretionary income. Actually, we're going to kind of move that into a little bit of a pro. The third con to consider is that there's going to be really slow growth for this game. And that's by design. That's intentional. Eric has come out and said, we're not going to be releasing sets every quarter. We're going to have like a release per year. Maybe, some years get 2 releases, but it's not going to be super frequent. Part of that is simply because hand-painted commissioned art is going to be difficult, and they really want to make sure they take their time. They don't want to grow too fast. So not growing too fast is important because that can be the death knell for some companies. But at the end of the day, growth is extremely important for any company, and especially a complex game that requires multiple people to play. After analyzing these pros and cons, let's go over reasons why you should and shouldn't buy the game. You should buy the game if you really love unique, cool things, and you just are ultimately a hipster at heart. Another reason to buy this game is if you simply want to support the cause and you say, hey, this Eric fella, he went out and he commissioned all of this art before ever launching the Kickstarter. He believes in it, I believe in him, and I just want to support the cause. Another reason to buy this game is if you just are absolutely obsessed with the art. If you just are taken aback and you can stop and stare and appreciate this art, well, that's something cool to own. Another reason to buy this game is because you actually enjoy it and it looks like a really fun game. From the gameplay that I've watched, it looks awesome. Another reason is if you just simply enjoy being a part of history and you say, I don't care where this goes in the future, it can absolutely be worthless and that's fine. If there's no secondary market, I don't care. I want to be part of something. I want to be into something in the ground floor. And lastly, a reason to buy these alpha boxes is if you have a little bit of extra money that you absolutely do not need and never will need. You could open up your wallet one day and just find this money completely gone. As you can see, there's a lot of reasons to buy this game and put your money here. It could be really cool. But there is an extremely important reason why to not buy this game, and that is if you need your money for rent and food and a car and necessities in life. This is not an investment. This is a gamble. So if your goal is to say, hey, I want to get in the ground floor and I want to make sure I can get these boxes and save on them and not open them and sell them in the future, I love the hustle, I love the idea, but make sure you can do that with money that you can afford to go to zero. Because man, this is so risky, and there's a really good chance that all these boxes are not worth much of anything in years to come. Now, maybe it happens. So you're saying there's a chance. Yeah, there's a small chance that this game takes off and succeeds, and these alpha booster boxes are worth something in the future. But you know what's really important? To make sure that you have food and rent and basic necessities in life. Now, I know that's not fun to hear, and if you're not in a situation where you have some extra income to throw at this, that's just reality, and you can do whatever you want at the end of the day. I'm just trying to be a voice of warning, a voice of reason. I'm going to be that little fairy godmother for you. As you can see, there's a lot to consider as to whether or not you should buy these alpha print run booster boxes of Sorcery Contested Realms. One thing's for sure, it's going to be an absolutely wild ride, whether they go to millions or they go to absolute zero. Personally, what I'm going to do, I'm going to buy a few booster boxes, maybe a full case, and I'm going to sit on those and just leave them sealed. But then I am going to buy the pre-con deck so I can actually open and play the game, and then get some second print run booster boxes to open and add to the decks. The big key here is that the money I'm setting aside for this, I do not need to grow. Of course, I want it to grow for multiple reasons. For my own benefit, that would be awesome. But also just to be a part of history and to see a card game go from absolutely not existing and no cards being printed to being a successful card game that's known around the world and played by thousands or millions of players. That would be a really cool, exciting thing, and I'd love to be a part of it. But ultimately, if this game disappears from the face of the earth and these boxes are worth absolutely zero in the future, I'll be fine. I'm not dumping my life savings into this. If you found value in this video, make sure to join the Wolfpack right now by hitting subscribe and check out this next video on the screen for you.